Hello everyone, welcome to the new episode of Mechanics of Success. It's your host Kuzey here, and today we have Ramtin Babaei with us. Welcome Ramtin, how are you?
Hi, Jose. Thanks for the invitation. I'm pretty hyped about the podcast. I'm pretty fine. How are you?
Yes, very good, very good. Except that it's 40 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Everything is all good.
True.
How is it going on your end with Bavest?
Pretty good. So at the moment we're closing several big enterprise clients. Obviously, I can't drop the names now, but soon. So pretty sick, and we're growing the team at the moment. So even it's summer, I would say almost. A lot of things are going on, so pretty cool, yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. So, Ramtin, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
So, hi everyone, I'm Ramtin. I am at the moment the CEO of Bavest and founded the company with my brother Petram and William. Petram is our COO basically, and William is our CTO. And we're building basically the AI native capital markets operating system. So, all companies that are in the space were founded in the 90s. Obviously, the tech stack is pretty old, and we're basically rebuilding that in a much modern way. And even if we're still a startup, I would say we already closed really big clients like eToro, Tradegate, other big banks, asset managers. And I would say the only reason for that is because, the old tech stacks are not working anymore, and we are doing something right, I guess. And we are basically providing financial data, quantitative analytics, and risk models via an API. And fintechs, banks, and asset managers can build on our API. Yeah.
I've checked your LinkedIn account, and you've been a software developer for a long period.
Yeah.
How are you now handling being the CEO, where I suppose you're not writing any code?
Good question. So, I studied computer science, and I was really tech focused, to be honest. I even wanted to move to the US to work in Silicon Valley. But my focus moved a little bit more into finance and fintech. So I had one curriculum in the university which was called e-finance, which basically explained how big hedge funds are trading, how high frequency trading works, which did catch my interest. But to be honest, my role completely changed. So at the beginning, I did build the MVP, did code some things, but since William, our CTO, did join, and to be honest, he's much more of a brain in terms of coding and tech. My role completely changed to sales, selling the company to investors. So I think that's normal, but yeah.
And are you enjoying the process?
Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, to be honest, every day is different, so it's never boring. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, good to hear. Then let's start with the questions without losing any more time. So the first question is, how do you define success in business given your role, which is being the CEO of the company or an entrepreneur? And please quantify it if you can.
Yeah, sure. So I will probably answer differently in terms of if I would be a bootstrapped company. But because with Bavest we have VCs on our cap table, basically I would say success for us three founders, for me, is basically creating a company that is dominating the whole market. So I would not say like Peter Thiel is saying be a monopoly, right? Because I think today with AI, it's basically impossible to be a monopoly. Even if you look at rocket companies like SpaceX, it's one of the most complex things in the world, but there's still competition. But I think for me, success is building a company that completely dominates the market. And then in terms of, as you described it, like real numbers, I would say making like 1 billion ARR. So if you can get to 1 billion ARR or even more, then I think you have done something right. Because we, for example, have even some angels that have founded unicorns, and they said from 0 to 1 million, it's much, much easier than from 1 million AR to, let's say, 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, which obviously I could say no is true. But yeah. And then maybe to add something, I would add a personal note. I know there's a lot of LinkedIn personalities there and founders that say that you have to work 7 days a week and so on. And I think that's true to become successful. But I think at the end of the day, if you have $1 billion company and you're not happy with what you're doing, then you're not successful. Yes, so I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of Andreessen Horowitz said, read maxing, I would say fun maxing. So get the most out of the thing you're doing with fun. Otherwise, it's, in my view, not successful. Yeah.
And are you having fun?
Yeah, definitely.
And would you be able to say that you're successful given your definition?
Obviously not. So we're not making 1 billion AR at the moment. But I would say definitely we're on the right track to becoming such a company. Yeah.
To achieve the success you defined, which is of course being happy, but that comes with some financial revenue, which is 1 billion ARR, as you said. If a successful business can be built on 3 key pillars, this can be team chemistry, time management, competitiveness, or else you name it, what would those 3 key pillars be?
So I would definitely say team, number 1, because you can have the best idea in the world. The market changes, everything changes basically. So if your team is bad, everything will not work out. So I would say team on number 1 basically. Then speed of shipping, and it doesn't matter if you're
execution speed then.
Yeah, execution speed. So it doesn't matter if you're a hardware company, if you're a software company, whatever. I think just the execution speed matters really, especially today in the world of AI. If you're slow, and even if you, let's say, have, I don't know, 50 million of funding, 100 million, whatever, if there's someone much faster than you in execution, with less money, maybe a smaller team, they will probably outwin you in every term. So I think that's really important. And the last one is innovation. I saw an interview with Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, and it was pretty funny because he said even at that stage, he thinks daily that there's a possibility that they will fail. And if you think about, there were like companies like Yahoo, Nokia, and in the first question you asked me, I said dominating markets. You can dominate the market for maybe 10 years, 20 years, and then vanish. So I think innovation is key, that you constantly optimize the product, create new things. Because at the end of the day, if you don't innovate, even dominating a market for a short time doesn't mean success long term. So I would say these 3 things. Yeah.
And which one out of these 3 you would say the most important one?
I would say team, and I have a funny story. So if you look up our company, Cosey, you can find some news articles that we were a B2C company. And maybe to add a little background, so when we started Bavest, initially we started to create a Bloomberg terminal in a modern way, because as you know, maybe the Bloomberg terminal, since the company were founded, didn't change in the UI, its design and so on. And obviously it's pretty expensive. And we thought we could create something better in that terms. So basically the initial idea was totally different. And then we started building the company, so actually the things we're building on top, the data, the layer, the infrastructure is totally old, broken. And what I want to say is basically there are a lot of like founders, companies that basically marrying their first idea, and they say, I have to do this anyway. Doesn't matter how, if it's working out or not. And I think team is really the most important, because even if things are not working out, if you don't have money, if you have to pivot like us, basically at the end of the day, if the team is right, you can somehow do everything. Like what I really like to think about is the Airbnb story. Maybe you know it. Brian Chesky and his co-founders did sell like different merchandise of Obama, like muesli and so on, in order to survive, because they didn't get any funding. So I think the team is really important. like being able to iterate on a product, pivot if it's not working. And if the team is not right, then all these things will not work out.
Is there any specific skill of the team, or is it just a team in general, or is it team chemistry, or what's the subcategory of team basically?
Yeah, that's a really complex question, but I try to break it down. But especially if you're first-time founders, in that process you learn so many things about building teams, because also like the size is really different. Like having a team of 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, the chemistry is different. But regarding your question, I would say the most important one is the chemistry, obviously. So as an example, there are some companies where you have exceptional people, be it in coding, like engineering, whatever. But obviously, let's say the character isn't right, and if the people doesn't fit together, then you could maybe compare it to a Formula One team. You can have an excellent driver, you can have excellent engineering teams, you have like a perfect execution team, leadership team, but the chemistry is bad. And then it doesn't matter if you have the best people on board, then if the chemistry is bad, the whole team will collapse. So I would say chemistry.
Time in the pit, and then it will.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say chemistry is the most important one, because let's be honest, and that's how we hire, by the way. We don't hire for skills in the first place. Obviously, they have to have skills, some basic skills, but in the first place, we hire for attitude. Because if you have the right mindset, you want to learn new things, you're open to feedback, you have the right chemistry, then I think you can create an exceptional team.
Yeah. Based on what metric, process, or indicators do you assess a good team member? If you give us some quantitative information, or how you approach to hiring.
Yeah. So we actually in the company we're pretty KPI driven. So we have internal dashboards. I have a dashboard if I'm doing good. So one of our KPIs is, so there are different teams, obviously sales, tech, and so on.
Yeah.
But let's say for the tech team, for example, not how many codes lines did you write, that's unnecessary. But for example, how many new features did you ship? Because there are some people working, let's say 8 hours a day, 9 hours. They are producing less features or output. So I think the output in generated features in the API is really important. For a sales member, or let's say for me, it can be like how many companies actually did I close, not how many calls did I have. That's like not a real metric. And then that's really hard to measure, I would say, but it's more a culture thing, I would say. If you have an issue,
maybe we can separate this into two. One is the hiring part, and one is the during the process part. So what do you look at when you're hiring?
So when we look at hiring, the first one I mentioned is attitude. So is the person open to learning new things? And obviously it's hard to
assess that. That's the
obviously that's hard to assess, but you have to do it somehow in the call. So what we do is we call out for something like a technical thing and so on, and then see how is the person reacting, because sometimes you try to be provocative, and then obviously if you're being hired, you try to give the right answer, right? And there are two type of people. The first group is they answer how you probably would like to hear it, and you instantly hear it out. That's obviously not the one you want to hear. And the second group is people that give unique answers. And then from that point, you can go the next question to find out about the attitude. And obviously, we want builders in the team. So we ask, okay, how many projects did you build? What did you build? And so on. Because to be honest with you, Kuzey, at the moment with AI, all this stuff happening, if you're just sitting in university and not building something, then you're doing something wrong.
Yes. I do agree.
Yeah.
And okay, so then the next step is during the process. So you said how many features they ship. So one question that arises is maybe like one feature takes too much time because it's more capable than the other feature? And is there someone that's checking this, or how do you measure that?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, our CTO has like a matrix, and you can say basically there are like different things like what is it costing us to build the feature? How big is the feature? So obviously, as you said,
Yeah.
if you have something really big, then you can't compare it. Then how big is the complexity? And obviously, our CTO can pretty good say how long probably it will take to implement that feature. And based on the different things in the matrix, so cost, complexity, and so on, he assesses it basically, and then he sees, okay, is everything going in with the plan,
Yeah.
or is it taking too much time or whatever? So, yeah.
Okay, and then so let's say you hire someone, you think that they were quite capable of shipping, but then during the process you saw that like either their team chemistry or execution speed is lacking. To what extent can you control or complement this metric, and what would you offer to fix?
So obviously, if fundamentally it's not working out, then at the end of the day you have to fire the person, right?
Yeah.
But what we try to do is to coach people. So we give them obviously feedback once a week, once a quarter, and try to give them like feedback. And if you see it's not working out, like after let's say 2 months, 3 months, then obviously you have to kick the person out. But otherwise, we had it oftentimes that people did adapt to the things we said. And obviously, to be honest, our infrastructure is pretty complex. And for someone who comes first in a company, works here at Bavest, it's basically like kicking someone in the ice bath. So obviously they need time to adapt. But I think the mentality thing is much more important. If you see the chemistry is not right with the team, if you did something wrong with hiring the wrong person, then we have to change that. Yeah.
And to how much of this behavior do you think you can control percentage-wise?
That's a really hard question. I would say it depends. So if the person is young, then you can pretty much influence the person, because I think the younger the people are, the much more you can mold them basically. And if you have someone who's let's say 40, a senior position, and he already worked 20 years somewhere, then I think the processes and the mindset and everything else is so much implemented already in the person. It's really hard for me to come and change something. So it depends, I think, on the age, and obviously there's already a given set of characteristics you can't change, right? But I think some things you can change, obviously. So yeah, I would say it's hard to say in numbers, but like 50-50 depending on the age.
Okay,
so,
good.
Yeah.
Good insights, thank you. And then, so the next question is a bit about how you use the technology nowadays. And so how are you basically leveraging AI or these social media tools or other emerging technologies, can be anything actually, to achieve the success you aim for?
So I talked a little bit about AI. So I would say that our company wouldn't exist 5 years ago, because maybe Jose, for you as an explanation, what we basically do with like our proprietary AI models, and we scrape data and analyze it with our own models. And we couldn't build that like 5 years ago because the technology didn't exist. And that basically enables the whole company to exist basically. So I would say AI is pretty important for us on the company level. Also, if you go deep down, like at the moment, everyone from working student, full-time position, be it in tech, sales, everyone uses AI. So we have Claude Max subscriptions. We use GitHub Copilot for coding and so on, Claude Code. Because you're basically, I would say, not 20x, but 50x faster in shipping and creating. Same for sales, you can create a lot of things in the sales team with AI. And on a personal level, for example, I did buy a Raspberry Pi and I did run OpenClaw on it. I still use it, so I think you can also in your private life you can optimize things. So I think AI is one of the most important things. And maybe as a side note, if you think about it, it's really crazy. Basically, in your phone, you have the whole knowledge of the whole humanity, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to that, now you have AI. So even if I'm in the train or somewhere else, I'm like walking or something, I can basically code, have ideas. So I think at the moment, it sounds really cheesy, but the only limitation is your own mind, basically. So you can build everything at the moment. So yeah.
That is true. And how are you experiencing OpenClaw?
It's pretty cool, but to be honest, it uses a lot of tokens. So that's the only thing. But yeah, it's pretty amazing, I would say.
And you think these AI tools causing you more work or less work? Like, let's say excluding cloud and the web scraping that you do, so your fundamental technology. But other than these two, do you think it's taking you further, or right now? Because sometimes what I see or experience is that these AI tools actually cause or create more work than you were supposed to do.
So I'm totally transparent now with you and honest. So I could give a bullshit answer and say, yeah, it's improving everything. But to be honest with you, Jose, I had several times now. So personally, I was working with Claude, and I was creating like a pricing offer. It was really complex because the potential client wanted basically everything from the API. And we hadn't such documents which explained every API endpoint. And Claude did a lot of like wrong things, and I was sitting there 2 hours, and then my CTO said, I think it's faster if you do it yourself. So I did it myself in 30 minutes. So I think, to be honest with you, Jose, sometimes it can extend the amount of time you need for a task. Yeah. And I sometimes also in my private life observed that instead of having unique thoughts, I just ask Claude for something. So I think it's like a double-edged sword, basically. So it depends. But yeah, I think in the tech side, so if you look at our tech team, it's basically really enabling them. But I think if I look at my tasks, sometimes it's just really unnecessary. So yeah.
Good that you point out different tasks, but yeah, I do feel the same way. Okay, so what's one fundamental assumption about how business works, one you once believed, or one widely accepted as truth that you now consider as a dangerous hallucination?
So obviously I did read a lot of business books as every founder, right, and person interested in entrepreneurship. And most of the books say, to be honest with you, because they say if you have an amazing product, everyone is coming to you. Like, that will happen. And what we found out, you can have the best product in the world. If you don't have the right distribution, or like, let's say, channels to get to your clients, users, whatever, then even having the best product doesn't win. And if you look at the market, it doesn't matter automotive, software, B2B SaaS, it doesn't matter. There are a lot of companies that are much, much better in terms of product than other companies, but they are still losing because the distribution is bad. So I would say that's one of the biggest things that we learned in the last years is distribution is really important.
How did you realize that the good product wasn't going to sell itself? Like you said, at some point we need to actually do sales.
Yeah, so obviously we looked at our calendar and we saw, okay, we don't have that much sales meetings as we wanted. So that's the first thing. Obviously the second point is revenue. So if your revenue is not growing as you wished, then you have to think, okay, what's the reason? And then the third thing is obviously, that was really funny because we observed once we have the sales call, it's pretty easy to convince people to use our API, become a client. But getting to the sales call is much, much more harder. And especially as a startup, like the first question was, before we had big logos like eToro, the first question was, okay, who is building on you? is it really trusted? Especially in the financial sector, trust is really important. So I would say that's like what happened. And then now, because we have like an automated sales pipeline, we have a good distribution channel and so on, we see, okay, once we have the enterprise calls, we directly close them. So basically I could say the revenue today, we could have that last year. But I think that's normal for a startup to don't get everything right in the first place.
Of course.
So.
Of course. Okay, now reflecting a bit to the future, how do you see what it will take to be successful as a person and as a business shifting over the next decade, given everything happening about the AI boom, SpaceX, the social media, and Gen Z entering the workforce?
So, as I said earlier, one thing I observed is that I asked a lot of times like Claude and discussed things, right? And I think at the moment, and you probably can observe it too with yourself, Jose, I think at the moment, most of people, if you think about it, they are not having unique thoughts. So one thing is maybe you're seeing something in a podcast, social media, and you're basically taking that, different things, mixing your own view, right? And then in addition, now you have AI, and basically everyone is asking from the stupidest questions, Claude, ChatGPT, up to, let's say, philosophical questions. I think at the moment, if you can have really unique like thoughts, and I would suggest to really sit down 20 minutes, 30 minutes a week, take paper and pen and just think, and have like unique thoughts. I think that's like one of the biggest things how you can successful, because if you think about it, and it doesn't matter which successful person, but if you look at Elon Musk, like Peter Thiel, Tobias Lütke from Shopify, it doesn't matter who. Everyone has like unique thoughts, like really unique things. They say in a podcast, they have assumptions basically no one else has, and they build a company, success, whatever, on top of that. I think so, yeah. Having unique thoughts in today's age is basically how you could become successful. And the second thing I would say, so since I studied computer science up till now, I would say how things are changing is accelerating. So if you have like, imagine like a graph, the speed of acceleration is accelerating basically. Sounds pretty weird, but it's like that, especially with AI. So I think being able to adapt to a new environment really fast is like the biggest two thing I think to becoming successful. Because if you think about it, like we talked about it, like Yahoo was a big company, Nokia was a big company, and they basically did die, even they dominated markets.
Yeah.
And probably we have now companies really big in the $1 billion space that will vanish in the next years because of AI. So I think being able to adapt really fast as a person and as a business is really important, especially today. Yeah.
Good. Okay, now I've asked you some questions, but this time I would like you to ask a question to a person that you think is successful. One question to understand how they achieved what they achieved. What would this question be?
That's a really good question. So I mean, there are a lot of people I admire, so it would be hard to decide on which person I ask, but like what would be interesting for me, probably Elon Musk or like, yeah, I don't know, Peter Thiel or someone else, like in this league, I would say. Like, what is something you believed that no one believed in that, and then later did come out true? Because I think, as we talked about unique views and so on, I think oftentimes every person has something in their mind and believes really into it, but everyone else says that's like bullshit, it's not true, and then maybe in 5 years it comes out true, and I would be interested to know like what was it for them that this was the case. Yeah.
So to see how they actually envisioned the future, but what was like
exactly, yeah,
was like an unconventional thing, yeah, back then.
Exactly, like an unconventional assumption they had, no one believed in it, and then they proved them wrong. And obviously public things we talk about, we know them, but there are probably a lot of things we don't know about, which would be interesting to know.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. And the last question is there anything that you like to ask back from the community of listeners here?
What would be interesting is, so OpenAI is going public, right?
Yes.
And Anthropic. For me, just really fun and interesting to know if they will buy these stocks. And maybe if they did buy SpaceX. And additionally, maybe if they hold it, or they just want to take the win and then go out. That would be interesting, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ramtin. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as
Yeah, it
much
was pretty
as
cool.
I did.
Yeah.
And I wish you success with Bavest, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Jose, for the invitation. Really appreciate it, and it was
Thank
really
you.
cool.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks.
for coming. Yeah, very valuable insights. Thanks again.
Thanks.